We're going to begin with the remarkable Rose and Rick. So, some of you have heard them. If you have, you know there's a great treat in store. So, I will switch here.
There's a man going around taking names. Never let her catch you with your work undone when he takes your name. Never let him catch you with your work undone when he takes your name. Never let him catch you with your work undone. There's a man going round taking names. Well, he took my father's name and he left my poor heart in pain. There's a man and he's going round taking names.
So my name's Rose and Rick. Thank you so much. Wow. Well, we're here tonight to remember the attack on the U.S. Capitol, on our Constitution, and on our representative form of government that occurred 2 years ago today. Tonight, we also remember the police, whose lives were lost and whose lives were permanently damaged as they defended our Capitol against the attacking mob, who were attacking them at a ratio of 85 attackers to 1 law enforcement official. We're going to pause now for a moment of silence to remember them and their courage and their dedication and their sacrifice. If you've already got your candle, go ahead and light it. But ladies and gentlemen, a few moments for remembrance of the law enforcement officials who fought to protect our entire way of life. Thank you. Since last year, much has changed. Millions of voters have repudiated the most prominent election deniers at the polls. The red wave, touted by the experts, never materialized. The bipartisan January 6th Select Committee has shown that Donald Trump and his allies planned, promoted, and paid for a criminal conspiracy to overturn an election they all knew they'd lost. People here tonight and across the U.S. are rallying in observance of this 2-year mark since the attack on the U.S. Capitol to prevent a peaceful transfer of power. And we can't emphasize this enough, the first time it has happened in our nation's history. And we cannot be complacent. Although the red wave did not materialize, over 2/3 of all U.S. House Republicans are election deniers. 135 incumbents who voted against certifying Joe Biden's Electoral College victory are returning to the House. And we can see what's happening there now.
Well, the traitor's out.
Senators, including Florida's Rick Scott, who ran from his life from the mob, voted to ignore and decertify the vote of 80 million Americans because they didn't like, and he didn't like, how they voted.
Voted out!
At least 27 freshman Republican members are election deniers, and instead of solving the kitchen table issues that Americans care about, making this a more decent country, they push their MAGA agenda by spreading lies, division, hatred, and fear. Oh, the peasants want a decent country with decent policies. Let them eat MAGA. Now, although the red wave did not materialize nationally, we in Florida find ourselves in a red laboratory for cruelty. Governor Ron DeSantis, many in the Florida legislature, Gee, I didn't have boo line, boo pause in here. Let me start again. Governor Ron DeSantis, many of the... Okay, all right. Can I continue? Many in the Florida legislature, Senator Marco Rubio, and... all right, get it out. You'll feel better. Okay, thank you. Thanks, we get the idea. And Senator Rick Scott, have you not... Okay, let me start. All these people have united to attack children, and families. They attack and demean LGBTQ children and families. They demonize some of the most desperate children and families in a horribly suffering world, immigrants who are fleeing economic and physical violence. And they continue their experiments in cruelty by demeaning children in school classrooms and by kidnapping immigrants just to see how far they can push it. Supported by the fear and anger they stoke in their MAGA base, by voter suppression and gerrymandering, and by activist MAGA courts. All this comes under the bland term, election deniers. Understand what that means. We are here tonight to say no to this dark agenda, but we are also here to say yes, symbolized by our two hands. Please join me in holding up one hand like this. In doing this, we say no to cruelty. We say no to fear and no to having our voices denied. We say no to cruelty, no to fear, and no to having our voices denied. Thank you. Now hold up your other hand. This hand says yes to supporting the LGBTQ community, yes to supporting immigrants, and yes to supporting all children hurt by the MAGA agenda. We also hold it up to say yes to supporting elected officials who oppose that agenda. And we hold it up to demand our rights and our vote, and to demand safety for our election officials. We also hold it up as an encouragement to the people whose hearts and minds are in the grip of MAGA and whose good natures have been twisted by toxic values, toxic religion, and toxic politics. We urge them to leave that darkness and join people who are working for a just and decent country. Commissioner Renee Flowers.
First of all, let me say thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come here and support the organizations that put this rally on. I was here last year, the year before, and I'll be here this year and any year going forth, God willing to give me strength. For those of you who don't know me, I've had the pleasure of being an elected official in this community because you have had faith and trust in me. I've served on the city council, the school board, and now your county commission. But more importantly, I am a very proud Democrat who believes that facts matter. Today we are honoring a most egregious action that took place in Washington, D.C. Individuals were riled up by the then President of the United States. And they were promised that he would march with them if they would march on the Capitol. Knowing that in that very building, individuals were tallying the votes for the election that cleared without a doubt that Joe Biden was the President of the United States and Kamala Harris was our new Vice President of the United States of America. Those individuals had weapons on them, makeshift weapons, AR-15s and other weapons. Some were launched up in the trees, others had poles and makeshift hatchets. They stormed the barricades and they managed to overtake the Capitol Police. And even though the Capitol Police were calling for help, they couldn't get any help because the President of the United States was busy looking and laughing at what was going on. 4 officers lost their lives. 2 committed suicide. 142 still suffering from the injuries that they received as a result of protecting even those who denied that the election took place and was a fair and free election. Even today, many of you saw what's going on in Washington, D.C. A group of 20 individuals who were intricately involved in the insurrection, and it wasn't a peaceful rally. It wasn't a normal get-together. It wasn't a kumbaya moment. It was an insurrection. They were treasonistic upon the United States of America. Those individuals have no business serving in the United States Congress. They have no business serving as leaders of the United States of America in a country that is supposed to be free. More importantly, they have done and will do everything they can to assure that your ability to vote unfettered is an issue. This man, I had a chance to meet with him. I had him at my church at Greater Mount Zion ME. He suffered and endured at a very young age because he understood that the power of the United States of America was in your vote. And to be able to pull that back meant that power was being taken away from the people. There should be absolutely no reason why in 2022 and 2023 we're still fighting for the right for everybody to be vote unfettered and uninhibited. There should be no reason why we have people who may have committed crimes in the past, why they cannot come back and participate in free and fair elections and cast their vote for the people who are making decisions about their lives. The state of Florida is one of only 3 states where you do not have an automatic restoration of rights, and that is because the individuals in Tallahassee know who they vote for and what would happen if they vote. There is absolutely no reason why we have to continuously do a name check or a photo ID check when we are citizens of the United States of America. We live in a country where this is supposed to be home of the free and the brave. Our vote should be able to be cast without hindrance from anybody. But more importantly, we've got to do our part. We've got to make sure that we don't just register to vote, we're going out to vote. Because we saw what happens when we don't do that. Redistricting comes and they mirror those lines so that it gives them the advantage and does not give the average voter the advantage, which is to vote for a person who lives in your community, who you see every day, and who understands what's going on in your community. We've got to be able to put a stop to this because it means education. You've seen it. Books being burned that all of us have read, even some of them. I guess the question becomes, did they actually read the book?
No, they didn't.
Did they actually understand what was being taught by the public school system?
No.
They've got to understand that if you fund education properly and if you pay teachers properly, we will have educated children graduating from the system and being able to become employed in our communities.
Yes.
But you see, we know how to read the bottom line. We know how to read a budget. We know that if we overrun our checkbook, we get that negative slip from the bank. We've got to remind them that they are writing checks on borrowed time because the presidential election is just around the corner. We cannot afford to be slow. We cannot afford to wait. We have got to start now for 2024 so that we are electing a president and a Congress and a Senate who believes that people have a right to be free in the United States of America. We have got to elect a Congress, a Senate, and a president who believes that our military should be utilized to fight for the freedom of this country. We have got to fight to make sure that education is something that's available to everyone and that they don't get to dictate what our children learn. They don't get to dictate nor desire to change history because history is history. Slavery did happen. It did occur. And we can only learn from that to change so that we err on the side of humanity and do not make the same mistakes that we made before. We have got to elect people who know that women should have the right to do what they want with their own bodies and make choices. We have got to vote for people who understand that not just putting someone in prison is the answer, but giving them the tools they need to be good citizens. Employable citizens is the answer. We have got to fight to make sure that they understand that technical trades is the mark of the future, and that the passage of what this Congress has done to assure that we're bringing back manufacturing jobs from overseas to the United States so that people can work is the way to go. We have got to make sure that the automobile industry understands that you can make cars right here in the United States of America, just like you can in Mexico and overseas in China. We have got to elect individuals who understand and who support the fact that we are residents, we are voters, we are citizens, and we demand equity, equality, diversity, and yes, we are woke.
Renee Flowers, ladies and gentlemen. Renee Flowers. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that pretty well puts it out pretty powerfully. It's time, I think, we also need to hear, you want to hear another one from Rose and Rick? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rose and Rick with a song that is unfortunately more relevant than it was when it was written 50 years ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, Rose and Rick.
We're traveling on. I wonder what's gone wrong. I can't help it. I wonder what's gone wrong.
Congresswoman Liz Holtzman.
Thank you very much. I feel very honored to be here in St. Pete, beautiful St. Pete tonight, and mostly honored to join with you. We heard a magnificent speech from the wonderful Renee Flowers. Thank you for that. And we also miss the wonderful Congresswoman from this area, Kathy Castor. She would be here tonight except for the craziness that's going on in Washington. I thought my voice could somewhat be a substitute, not really a substitute, but could help fill in the gap. This is a day that, like Pearl Harbor, goes down in infamy. Let's make no mistake about it. This wasn't an attack from the outside, it was an attack from people inside. In World War II, we fought fascism abroad, and now we're fighting those very same forces here at home. And they're more dangerous than ever. But the amazing thing is, we can't give up hope. Because look at what happened just in the last election. When everybody predicted that there'd be a red wave, that the Democrats would lose, the Republicans would control, not just the Republicans, the MAGAs, we would lose our country. And guess what? They were wrong. Why were they wrong? Because of all of you here. And not only all of you here, and you look great, by the way. Think about all of the people all over America who stood up and said, no, we are not going to give up our country to the forces of fascism, for the forces of authoritarianism, for the anti-democratic forces, for the forces of racism and bigotry. We say no. And look at what happened, and probably if we'd had more optimism about it, there would be no Republican control of the House of Representatives, and we would have won more senators. Anyway, it was amazing what happened. So we're here today to say, no, 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 you can't take our country from us. And yes, 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 we're going to fight for our country that stands for freedom for all and justice for all. 2 years have gone by. Let's just remember this. 2 years have gone by, and the man who orchestrated the events of January 6th has not been held to account. How much longer? Martin Luther King said about the Ark of Justice. How much longer? Not much longer. We're here to call on the Department of Justice to do justice. The Pledge of Allegiance is not about justice for some, it's justice for all, and we demand justice for the highest and the mightiest, as well as everybody else. Donald Trump cannot go without accountability. That's what today is about too. Because if he can escape, who can't? And what will our future be if every president can be a criminal and take away our rights and take away our democracy? Can't happen. And we can make that happen by making sure our voices are heard. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the fights you fought in the past. Thank you so much for what you're going to do to fight for us in the future, to preserve not just your rights, but the rights for all Americans. I'm very proud to be with you today. Thank you.
We have heard two very inspiring speakers, and now it is time for us to take that inspiration, to take that love of country and love of democracy, and we're going to make a public witness to say we stand for our country. We're going to make sure we're saying no to authoritarianism, and we're going to make a very public witness as the beginning of our fight to make sure everyone can vote and we have a decent country. Signs up, ladies and gentlemen, signs up. This is going to, these photos are going to go all over the country to join with the hundreds and thousands of people who are rallying today, including a man in a top hat. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Cratchit has stepped in from the Christmas Carol. Give him a round of applause. Bob.
We shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Darling, here in my heart, yeah, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday.
He looks live! Show me what democracy
Well, we
looks
shall
like!
live in peace.
Show me what
We
democracy
shall
looks
live
like!
in peace.
Show me what
We
democracy
shall
looks
live
like!
in peace.
Show me what democracy looks like!
Darling, here in my heart, yeah, I do believe
Show me what democracy looks like!
Oh, beautiful horse patriot streams that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by youth and tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee and crown thy good with brother and sisterhood from sea